What if the most important part of Al-Aqsa is not what you see, but what you don't? What if the tunnels beneath this sacred site are mentioned not just in modern political debates, but in the Bible, in Islamic tradition, and in early Christian history? And what if the real conflict was never about prayer halls, flags, or borders, but about who controls the ground beneath everyone's feet? Because history doesn't disappear, it gets buried. And buried history is the most dangerous kind. Welcome to Hazel, Eleanor. Chapter 1. A land older than religions. Before Islam. Before Judaism. Before Christianity. This land already existed. Long before it was called Jerusalem, it was a Canaanite city. Later, a Jebusite stronghold. Every empire that touched it, renamed it, reshaped it, and fought over it. This matters because no religion arrived on empty land. Each faith inherited layers, physical, cultural, and spiritual. And those layers didn't sit side by side. They stacked on top of each other. Which means every excavation today is not neutral. It is a choice about which layer deserves to breathe, and which one stays buried. Chapter 2. The Temple and the Underground. For Judaism, this site, known as the Temple Mount, is the most sacred place on earth. According to Jewish belief, this is where the first and second temples stood. But Jewish tradition never describes the temple as just a surface structure. The Hebrew Bible itself mentions underground access. In the book of Samuel, King David captures Jerusalem through a water shaft. Archaeologists today identify this with Warren's Shaft, an underground tunnel system that still exists. Jewish sources speak of ritual pathways, water purification systems, and hidden chambers beneath the temple complex. So when Israeli archaeologists say tunnels are part of Jewish history, that claim is not fictional. But here is the line that rarely gets crossed, honestly. Archaeology explains the past, power decides how it is used. Chapter 3. Temple Mount is not just a building. In Islam, Al-Aqsa is not just a mosque hall, it is an entire sacred precinct, Haram al-Sharif. The Quran describes it as a blessed area. Islamic scholars have always interpreted this blessing as extending beyond visible structures, including the land beneath. For Muslims, sanctity is not architectural, it is spatial, which is why the fear is not about archaeology itself. The fear is this: if control of what lies beneath is lost, then what stands above becomes symbolic, not sovereign. That fear is not emotional. It is historical, because power has always entered sacred spaces quietly, through foundations, not front doors. Chapter 4. Memory beneath the stones. Christian history adds another layer most people ignore. During Roman rule, Jerusalem was destroyed and rebuilt repeatedly. Underground routes were used for escape and survival. Early Christian memory links this area to the final days of Jesus. For Christians, this land is less about ownership and more about preservation, which is why Christian institutions often oppose aggressive excavations. Not because of politics, but because once underground heritage is damaged, it cannot be restored. Stone remembers until it is broken. Chapter 5. Modern tunnels. Science or strategy. The tunnels exist. That is not disputed. They are monitored primarily by Israeli authorities. Muslim Waqf control underground is limited. This is where the argument shifts. The issue is not whether tunnels should exist. The issue is exclusive control. Because once one side controls the underground, it begins to define the surface legally, historically, and symbolically. History stops being shared memory and becomes curated narrative. And curated history as power in its most silent form. Chapter 6. The status quo that isn't stable. After 1967, an arrangement emerged. Muslims retained administration above ground. Israel retained security control, especially beneath. Over time, that balance shifted. Restrictions above increased. Excavations below accelerated, and tension grew, not because something visible changed, but because something structural did. Power rarely announces itself. It moves downward first. Chapter 7. The final question. If tunnels are mentioned in Jewish texts, Islamic tradition, and historical records, then tunnels themselves are not the problem. Control is the problem. And when three religions consider the same land sacred, the question is no longer about belief. It is about authority. Who interprets the stones? Who protects them? And who decides which past becomes permanent? Al-Aqsa is not just a mosque. The Temple Mount is not just ruins. This site is not a religious argument. It is a test of power. And power, unlike fate, does not like to share.